You're watching KHQA Overtime with Chris Dewar, brought to you by Con Communications.
And this is Saturday.
Well, we just went back to the basics. Just getting a better work ethic in the weight room, better attendance, trying to get in better condition, and it's continued into the summer. Kids have had a great off season, they've had a great attitude so far in camp.
If there is any upshot to the Trojans' ill-fated 2013 campaign, it is this: the opportunity this fall for atonement. Triopia returns 20 lettermen and 24 kids who made at least one start last season, affording all of them a very significant do-over. And for this program, the road
This is KHQA Overtime with Chris Dewar, brought to you by Con Communications. This is KHQA. It's your news now.
And this is Saturday, August the 16th, and once again, you have entered overtime. Welcome. The surest sign yet that it is back to business time right here in Tri-State Sports. And from now until late June, we'll be here for you every Saturday night, 10:30, keeping vigil on the local scene with extended coverage, special features, and of course all manner of frivolity, because that's what we do. And while this is our last calm before the storm sporting weekend, this is also our chance to get you up to speed tonight before we officially kick off the pigskin party in the Show Me State next Friday night. But I want to start this evening on a little different gridiron note, bringing you up to date on a story we brought you last Friday. Marianne StClair, the wife of Hannibal High School football coach Mark StClair, was diagnosed with stage 4 pancreatic cancer earlier this summer, and her brave fight has been a source of inspiration for a lot of people in all corners of the Tri-States. In fact, earlier last week, Hannibal alum Chelsea Rittenauer, who went to school with Marianne and Mark's daughter Kelsey, decided to start an internet campaign on GoFundMe.com to try and raise initially $7,000 for the StClair family to take a very special family vacation together. In just 8 days, and this is where we live, folks, 181 people now have contributed to that campaign and have now raised over $10,000 to that cause. And they aren't shutting down the operation just yet because they've shattered every goal. The victorious battle against cancer is expensive business, and there is still time for you to contribute if you have the means. We posted all the information on my Facebook page so you can access it, read more about Marianne's fight, and leave your own message of encouragement there. We encourage you to do so at your earliest leisure. Well, to the business of barnstorming now, in a trio of tour stops tonight, we begin our journey in southeast Iowa, where over the past 2 decades, there has been one distinct commonality shared between all the very best Keokuk football teams of the last 2 decades. Whether it was the McGackey, Raymaker, Yowie trio of the early 1990s, or the late 1990s, I should say, the Mike Neuendorf-led state championship squad in 2007, or the Wes Bradley, Alex Goss, Ryan Hawkins faction of later years, bigger has indeed meant better, I should say, for Chief football. And don't look now, but behemoths in the trenches are once again back in vogue in the Gate City.
We have very big, strong guys that they can move people, and they can set very big lanes for myself and all the other skill guys. So, and that makes us very happy.
I think anybody that knows football knows that the game starts up there, and that's a great starting spot for us.
This year we have a lot of seniors. Last year we were kind of young. This year we have a lot of juniors and seniors, and we're all excited to play this year, and we're all ready to get that win.
Oh, we all work together. I can tell you what the guy next to me is going to do before the play's even snapped. I know his steps, he knows mine, and we all just work together as chemistry. It's everything on the offensive line.
The good thing about the O-line is they have that experience, they have that size, and we have positive leadership up front between Ryan and Jonathan and Jacob, 3 seniors that got quite a bit of time last year, and they've had quite a bit of time in the past, and that's going to help our running game get started, and if we can run the football, things will be good.
Despite employing that gigantic front wall and a power fullback in Dakota Shaw straight out of Central Casting, the Keokuk run game never really spiked the way it should have in 2013, averaging a paltry 104 total rushing yards per game. In that spirit, Doug Dodds is doing some tweaking, trying to coax greater ground production as a better jab to set up all of the potential haymakers the Chiefs can throw with their passing game.
You have to have that balance, and that's something we really strive for. We don't want to be a one-dimensional football team where teams can just sit back and really focus on taking that away, and that's something we've been working on this summer and then been working on the first few days of practice.
We're good both running and passing. I have a good feeling this year, both sides. Last year we kind of ran into some trouble, but I have a really good feeling this year on both sides.
We gotta come out with intensity, play it game by game, and pretty much punish people with how the way our offenses ran. We have the ability to run and pass the ball, so I'm very excited for this season to go.
To that end, the more weapons like Dakota Shaw and wide receiver Colton Marlin, who had 50 receptions a season ago, and even place kicker Jordan Martin, who booted a 47-yard field goal last season and has hit from as long as 60 in practice, are on the field, the better Keokuk's prospects for victory become. Put simply then, that means if the Chiefs want to return to the playoffs, they have to tackle better and limit their defensive exposure.
I think the basic thing is just back to the fundamentals. Our guys learn the basic scheme and then just fly to the ball. It's just more of a mental set for us, and that should help us out a ton.
We have a lot more seniors than the class last year, and no disrespect to them. But we're ready to play. Last year, most of us, we didn't make the playoffs for the first time in a while, and we're mad about that, and we want to change that, make the town believe that we're good.
Last year kind of lit a fire underneath everyone. We're all ready to go, and we're all ready to punch our ticket to the playoffs this year. I mean, we're not going to stop for anything.
Well, the Chiefs did go 4-5 last season, and even though the Iowa State Association didn't do them any favors with a really tough schedule, I do think they're a couple of wins better. That's a team to look out for. Really, really good. Now, let's move on. There are nearly 40 high school football teams that call the Tri-States home, but only one of them plays in a conference that currently boasts a pair of reigning state champions. That is Jacksonville's unique lot in football life. Mark Grounds has elevated his program as far as any coach in our region, yet his team is still subject to Illinois football's most daunting titanium ceiling, with Rochester, Sacred Heart Griffin, and Chatham Glenwood lording over all they survey. But if history has taught us anything, every bully one day tastes his comeuppance. And perhaps that day in the Central State 8 is now.
Well, we're right there. We're going to do it. That sounds pompous, sorry, but we're going to do it. I mean, we had 2 state champions in the conference this year in football, SHG and Rochester, and there's no reason we can't win. Absolutely not. I think we're the best team in the conference.
In my opinion, we've been one play away 3 out of the last 4 years from being in the quarterfinals, and I like what our matchups would have been in the quarterfinals. So even though we haven't made it past the second round in quite a few years, we're knocking on the doorstep right there.
For all of the previous progress that has been made here, the next evolution of Jacksonville football looms as the most critical and the most difficult to achieve. Either the Crimsons will wrest control of their own destiny from the Central State 8's elite, or they'll stagnate on the threshold that separates the merely good from those who are a legend. Achieving this program's stated goals requires a power grab of epic scope. And to that end, Mark Grounds has armed himself with a more appropriate type of player.
I think our skilled guys that we have coming in are as good as they've ever been. And what I'm really, really impressed with, I think that we've got a chance to be an outstanding defensive ball club. Our athleticism and our tackling ability is, I rank up there with some of the best teams this time of the year that I've ever had.
Our biggest thing is we attack. We don't play defense anymore. We're about attacking and making the offense stop us instead of us stopping the offense.
Our linebackers, they're making us work up front. They're making us such a better team offensive line-wise, and I mean, they're working us every day, so we're excited about them too.
But it's not merely the traditionally troublesome spots on his roster that Mark Grounds has recalibrated. Becoming elite means getting better everywhere, even with personnel turnover. That means the Crimson's benchmark passing game isn't immune from tweaking, especially with a new trigger man.
Starts at quarterback, and Joe Brannon, you know, he's been with us his fourth year in the program from junior high up. Knows what we expect of him. Big, strong kid, accurate passer. You know, he's what you expect out of a Jacksonville quarterback. And you know, we've got a lot of wide receiver types come out. We may not have the Dalton Keens and the Blake Hanses that were tight ends out there at 260 and 270 pounds, but we got kids that can fly. So we'll have more of a true 4 wide receiver set instead of 2 tight ends with 2 wideouts.
James White is a beast. Noah Pickens, C.J. Wright. We still have Zach Lonergan back. He's phenomenal. And then Zach Moss, Clay Wood at running back. We're going to be really tough on offense this year.
When kids get an opportunity in our system, they shine because they've had to sit behind some good guys. Cody Wood was one of the most impressive wide receivers we've ever had as a senior, and he wasn't a full-time starter as a junior because of the people in front of him. So there's some names that people aren't going to recognize at the start of the year that will be commonplace names hopefully by the end of the year.
As irony would have it, the Crimson's most marquee name is an offensive tackle. Fighting Illini recruit Gabe Meganson headlines one of the most promising groups ever to grace the trenches in Jacksonville, and that should help pave the way for a much more brutish run game as well.
Yeah, the offensive line, they're the hardest workers I know. They get in the weight room whether you ask them to or not, so we're really excited what we can do up there.
Another thing is we communicate really well, especially in blitz pickup, pass protection. We all know the offense. We all know our responsibilities.
Yeah, we're going to be between the tackles guys. They can get it outside when they have to, but they're a load. They're kind of a Jake Mills type runners instead of some of the semi-slot receiver types that we've had back there the last couple years.
We're really excited with the young talent that's coming up, and our senior class is small, but we have great players in it, and we're just really excited to work together.
We hold the Jacksonville Crimsons in very high regard. You will find out just how much so when we come back on Overtime and reveal our top 12 to start the season. Our first power poll will also barnstorm a team that had a really strange year last year, Concord Triopia. In 2 minutes. We'll see you then, everybody.
You're watching KHQA Overtime with Chris Dewar. Brought to you by Con Communications.
And welcome back to Overtime, everybody. Rarely do we swing and miss on a preseason pigskin prediction as wildly as we did on the 2013 Triopia Trojans, a team that boasted 9-0 type talent, yet went off the rails to the tune of an inexplicable 2-7 finish. Not even Rich Thompson, a man with a state championship to his credit, mind you, could explain the disconnect. But what he could do very effectively is turn the page.
Well, we just went back to the basics. Just getting a better work ethic in the weight room, better attendance, trying to get in better condition, and it's continued into the summer. Kids have had a great off-season, they've had a great attitude so far in camp.
If there is any upshot to the Trojans' ill-fated 2013 campaign, it is this: the opportunity this fall for atonement. Triopia returns 20 lettermen and 24 kids who made at least one start last season, affording all of them a very significant do-over. And for this program, the road to success hinges on making the power run game do more than just pass the eye test.
That's what we're hoping. We've got two 200-pound plus backs back there. And then we've also got a couple more options with Blake Lawson and Tristan Wise that can come in and give us some speed out of the backfield too. But we're going to hang our hat on pounding the ball, trying to get 4 or 5. And trying to get the clock running and play Triopia football. We've got some options up front. We've got a lot of returning starters with Smith and Whited and Green. And Jesse Howell played last year but hurt his knee, and he's back. So we've got some other options with Alex Bell and Mason Young and Matt Privia. So we're deep up front, and hopefully our veterans can step up, but it's looked a lot better so far.
And that's certainly a nice safety net for sophomore Isaac Wearies, who won the quarterback job this summer.
He's been great fun. He's a great kid. He's the one you want at quarterback. He's smart. His eyes are always looking at you, and it's yes sir, no sir. And I like what he's doing for us so far, and the team seems to have his back.
Waking up the echoes on the other side of the football is imperative for Triop as well.
Like our defensive line. We're big up front, we're deep, and I think if we can clog that middle and spill everything to the outside, then we should have a fairly successful defense. We really struggled stopping the run last year, and I just think we're going to stop the run a lot better this year, hopefully. And we got to have some linebackers step up and play a little bit better, a little more physical. And our secondary is pretty young, and they're going to have to learn to do the same thing. So, it's a work in progress, but the effort's been great.
There's a lot of good at the top of this conference, but nobody comes in here without a question mark. I mean, whether it's Central trying to find a new line or Brown County trying to find new backs. I mean, there's a world of opportunity for the team that wants to stand up and take it, isn't there?
Yeah, I agree with you. You got to look at Camp Point with how successful they've been over the past couple seasons, and they're believing in each other. But I agree with you. I think, we're right there talent-wise. And, if our kids can take the approach of one game at a time, let's get better every practice, let's get better every play, and go from there, I like our chances. We got to stay healthy, and just like everybody else. But we return a lot of veterans, and hopefully those veterans have been seasoned enough to where they're ready to stand up and make a point of themselves this year.
We've now reached the portion of the program where I make about 39 teams in our area angry and one very happy. It's our first KHQA Power Poll of the year. The top 12 teams, or in this case, 13 teams in our area. They will be explained in greater depth on Tourism, but let me start with a few cliff notes. Quincy Notre Dame, I have not yet had a chance to see. It's a team that returns only 5 total starters. I was hoping to do that today. Unfortunately, the Raiders scrimmage today, their first contact scrimmage of the year, was rained out. So we will leave them in a tie until we get it figured out on Monday when we see them in person. Right now with Paris, I tell you what, 2 teams on there from Northeast Missouri, Paris and Bowling Green, who, if they tackle anyone, will be phenomenal. 2 teams without unbelievable outsized offensive production. We just have to see what they can do on the other end of things, obviously playing some defense, because neither of them did that very well last season. Brown County, as we mentioned in the previous package, has to find a ground game. They've got some pretty good young guys. They're just not known varsity commodities yet. And then there's a team at number 9, Palmyra, who was probably the best team in our area last season. They don't return much in the way of starters. but they're really, really talented. And I tend to think this is the team, if you're looking for an outlier, somebody who's going to surprise everybody and really jump into the mix at the top of that conference. Palmyra could be number one at the end of this thing again. Let's take a look at the next couple of teams. Got Centralia there, obviously some changes afoot, but it's Earl Bennett. He's got a really loaded offensive backfield again, and Centralia's big. No surprise there. Illini West, as we mentioned earlier in the week, has to find offensive linemen. They've got some pretty good ones. They're not named guys yet, but that backfield is just so ridiculously fast with Jacob Scholl and Kerfman and all those guys in the backfield there. Nolan Ard, they can run everywhere. That's a team that may really spike if Illini West gets it done. I've got South Shelby 6. Don't like their postseason path, but I like their talent, especially if Trace Windsor can stay healthy. Got a couple of middle linebackers at South Shelby this year who are as good as any we've seen in a long, long time. Those guys spike the way we think they will. Tell you what, you're going to see a great move from South Shelby in districts. Quincy High School is a team who I think has outlier talent. Yes, they have the hardest postseason path of anyone, and they lost all their big names. But really, Quincy High is a team I even mess with putting in our top 4 just because I think they're so balanced. This might be the most balanced team Rick Little has had, and there's a lot of belief there. And I think that Quincy High team is going to be a lot better than people think. And then to the top 4, obviously Jacksonville, who's got to someday find a way to get through Chatham, Glenwood, and Rochester and Sacred Heart Griffin. But my goodness, this is a great team with at least one Division I talent in Gabe Meganson. We think they'll have a second, maybe in Zach Lonergan at wide receiver, just loaded everywhere and with great defensive talent this year. Maybe the best team, as you heard Mark Brown say, defensively he's had. I've got Macon winning the Clarence Cannon Conference this year. I think that team is phenomenal. I know they've had some losses. Best wide receiver in the area, and Brendan Watts. Outstanding linebacker core at Macon. Really a nifty team, which brings us to the top 2. I know Hannibal has a lot of things going on beyond football, obviously, with everything that's going on this year. But if you look at just talent, and again, Hannibal may open the season 0-2 with that ridiculously tough schedule ahead of them. But I think at the end of the year, you look at that talent, I don't think there's any team in our area that's as good from front to back on both sides of the football as the Hannibal Pirates. And quite frankly, if they get a little confidence brewing, that is a team that could be ridiculous. And of course, number 1, and maybe this is the chicken's way out for me, but if you don't lose a regular season game in 3 years, I'm not going to pick against you. Camp Point Central obviously has to find a new offensive line, but their backfield talent with Saldana and Kelts is ridiculous. They've got a really good young quarterback. I think it's a team that's going to be a big show out this season. And, you know, it's Brad Dixon, and they're always going to play great defense. So that's how it breaks down. Tourism's out for you coming up on Thursday, and we'll break it down even further as we go into that first Friday, coming up this Friday, of high school football. Let's talk a little baseball now. It's been quite the summer for the Q&D baseball squad, which is now 2 Division I recruits deep. Raider senior pitcher-to-be Justin Tallman is the latest pledge and will land at Missouri Southern after his senior season. Missouri State, I should say, not Missouri Southern. Congratulations to him. The Raider right-hander was a first-team all-do-or-die team selection this past season and joins teammate Joey Pollock, who pledged South Carolina earlier this summer as well. The latest college export to be from Chris Martin's squad. Again, Missouri State, great landing spot for Justin Tallman. I thought maybe the best pitcher I saw this season. Heads up, and he's got another year to prove it at Q&D. And we've got more for you coming up after this.